It's a good day. I am very excited to talk about this. I was talking about this with a guy that, I've been talking about sales with him, and he's getting his first clients now and doing his initial outreach. And so been talking a lot about whether you need a case study or not. And so I want to go into, do you need a case study? If you're brand new in business and you have a service-based business and you're trying to sell your service, do you need to be able to prove that you've been successful in other customers before you onboard your first client? And obviously, that's a trick question, because if you can't prove that you know what you're doing, truthfully, then are you going to be able to get that first client? The first client is the case study that you'll use in future sales. And so people get caught in this trap of a mental cycle of, man, I can't get my first client without a case study, but I can't get a case study without my first client. So I'm going to go over all the reasons why you don't really need a case study, what the case study is really for, and other ways you can accomplish what a case study accomplishes. So what is a case study for? So the initial answer is, well, it's to prove that you know what you're doing. Well, there's deeper levels to that. If somebody asks for a case study from you, it's because they don't really know if you actually know what you're doing. And if they don't know they don't know if you actually know what you're doing, they're going to have a fear of losing money, losing time, losing all kinds of precious assets that they have on you. And so that's the deeper level. That's the emotional level. Is people have a fear, and it's a healthy fear, of losing resources on you. And so if you can speak to that in a way that's comforting, that's reassuring, that's truthful, then you're not going to even be asked for a case study. My first 4 clients that I got within a month and a half of starting my lead generation business, none of them asked for a case study, because of the way that I spoke to that fear before that fear even arose in their mind. And so we'll go over the psychology of how that works and what you should do during your sales calls. But before that, you really have to understand your service fundamentally in and out. You got to understand exactly what it is that you do. And so that's something that I see a lot of beginners do, is they have an idea of what they want to do, or they've been through some course that shows them how to do X, how to do cold email, how to do Facebook ads, and they think they know what they're doing, but then they start talking to prospects and they realize nobody really trusts that I know what I'm doing. And that's because you don't really understand everything that you're doing to a fundamental level to where you can talk about it in a sensible way to any prospect. So the first step is, if you're brand new in the service-based business, if you don't already know your product really, really well, go and understand your product really, really well. You'd be surprised how many people don't even know what they're doing, and they're trying to reach out to get new customers. That's just not how it works. You don't see that in any other area of life. A car mechanic isn't going to try to go get people's cars to work on without telling the people, hey, I work on cars and I know exactly what I'm doing. If they were to tell them, hey, I have no idea what I'm doing and I want to poke around in your car, nobody's gonna. No, only somebody who's got a spare car that wants to give the guy a favor so that he can learn how to work on cars is gonna give that guy any jobs. So really understand what you're doing. The second step is creating a really compelling offer to people, with understanding that you are brand new. Even if you know what you're doing, you haven't actually tested it out yet. You don't really know if what you're doing works or not, or maybe you've only done it a couple times. So your offer really needs to cater to that. So for example, my offer was, I charged a really low setup fee for a cold email system that sent mass cold email out to prospects for my clients, and a really low setup fee, and at a really low retainer, basically just covering the costs of doing the campaigns. And my money came in when I actually got them a client that led to a sale. So that's a very different offer than what most lead generators will do. So for one, it's different, so that sounds good to prospects. 2, it really brings the cost down for them, so their fear is also down. They don't have as much fear of losing much, because if they're just losing, $1,200. That's not a big deal to them, to most business owners. And then on top of that, in my offer was, if you're not satisfied, if we don't get you results within 60 days, I'll give you any retainers and the setup fee back for, because I told you that I would get you results and I didn't, and I don't believe that's right. And so that offer right there is one that totally eliminates fear of loss. So even if somebody thinks that you might not know what you're doing, they're still not going to have that fear of loss, so they don't actually need to know that you know what you're doing, because they know they're going to get their money back. This would be a little bit challenging for those of you that are outside of the U.S. and you're targeting the U.S., because there are so many scammers from outside the U.S. that target people in the U.S., and they have money back guarantees, and then you give them their money and then you don't see your money back at all. So you would have to create a different offer that's a little bit more sensible. But anyway, so creating an offer is very important for eliminating the fear of loss within a CEO's mind. So the second step is, when you do your outreach and you finally get some calls, is you understand exactly what you're doing. You have your really compelling offer that totally eliminates the fear of loss in your prospect's mind. And the third step is that you talk about it in a way that lets the customer know that you know more than they do about the service that you're selling. And so if you say doing cold email, I can use that as an example because that's what I did. I would talk about cold email in asking them questions, what's your target market? Who do you like working with? And so I look on my tools and see how many people we could reach out to. And I tell them facts about, hey, this is actually a really good number. There's a little bit more filtering that I have to do to get the actual number, but we've got about 10,000 people we can reach out to. And that's a lot of people. We can run for a couple months off of that. And then talk about the process of setting up a cold email structure and why you have to create multiple domains and that you have to warm those domains up so that they don't get flagged. There's a lot that goes into doing a cold email campaign, and there's a lot that goes into all kinds of marketing, and any kind of service-based business that you do is going to be complicated, and you should talk about it a little bit because it sets you as someone who knows what they're talking about, and that you do know more than they do about the subject. That's very important. And then you go into your offer. And this is where, if you don't have a case study and you're brand new, you should let them know, hey, I've been studying this for a long time now, but I just started. And so that's why I have some of these things in place to make sure that you're reassured that if anything were to go wrong, I don't expect that they will, but if anything were to go wrong, you get your money back. You're not losing out on anything. I'm doing all of the work so that you don't spend a lot of time on this. And if you're happy with it, then I get results. If you're not happy with it, you get your money back. And you let them know up front that you're brand new. And if you do that for 10 clients, then you can raise your prices and you'll have 10 case studies if people even ask for the case study. So the basic end result of this video is, do you need a case study or not? And the answer to that question is, it's the wrong question to be asking. The question is, do you need to eliminate the fear of loss or not? And the answer is obviously yes, and you don't have to use a case study to do that. You can do it through knowing what you're talking about, creating a really good offer, and talking about it in a way that reassures the person and eliminates that fear of loss. All objections in sales come from fear of loss or not being in a position to buy your service. And so, hopefully that was helpful, and I'm very excited about it. I think this is something, if you're a new beginner, this is stuff you should fundamentally understand. And if you have any more questions, put it in the comments. I'd love to hear from you, and I'll see you next time. Bye.